Folks, welcome in to a new edition of Bullet Points. I'm one of your hosts today, Kevin Misseri, here with Mike Bunt, Rob Ryan on the fly. We are here for another game day edition here at noon, and UB loves their noon home games against the Bowling Green Falcons, a team that looked like they had some promise early on, guys, winning against on the road on a BCS opponent. Then continuing to play a really good half against Kent State, and then struggled since that second half against Kent State to really playing terrible football. But we're going to break all that down for you here shortly, as well as a little bit of a commanding victory and a bad beat against Akron. So just a little bit of all that and more. This show is brought to you by Hartman's. Get out there and try some of the best vodka and spirits out there. Try their tap room. It's amazing. Get out there at Hartman's. Mike, we're going to start with you. Mike, how you doing today? And welcome into this edition.
UB hoops and UB basketball.
Yeah. I mean, Rob, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Coming off 2 victories. One, of course, against Bunt's Bobcats. That's always great. And, I mean, basketball's around the corner also. So it's a great time to be a UB sports fan.
I mean, basketball's right here. That's going to be interesting to talk about this season as well. Basketball's got a lot to talk about, Mike. So plenty. We talked off air about some things we're going to do here at Bullet Points. We're going to cover that. We're going to get into some practices. We're going to do some pregame stuff. We're going to do some preseason stuff, before the Damon matchup. So lot to look forward to on that end. But we have a game to cover tomorrow at noon, Mike, a game that's going to keep UB alive as of right now, 4-4, alive for a bowl game. Alive and there, just they need some help from Kent losing tomorrow. We'll see if they have the matchup to do so against NIU, a 4-0 team. So, Mike, I was going to start there. What are you looking forward to most around MAC play? And then we'll get into Bowling Green.
Well, obviously, I'm looking forward to the blackout at UB Stadium. All 7,500 people that show up. It's not going to be a big crowd. It's not going to be a loud crowd, but it's going to be an enjoyable crowd, because they're going to watch a winning football team get their 3rd straight win tomorrow. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And I'm looking forward to the Bulls running up the score against this Falcons team that has been in disarray since the beginning of October. BG was looking good early on in the year. They had a nice upset win over Minnesota, fooled some of us into thinking maybe they're actually pretty decent. But since then, they have been getting lit up in the MAC. Their defense can't stop anything, and their offense is basically just a passing game that has more interceptions thrown than touchdowns. So this is a game that UB should dominate, and I'm looking forward to it.
Early on, Rob, we have UB as a 13.5 point favorite, 51.5 over under here set for this game. Some pretty interesting betting lines coming out here. They really don't have a running game either, which is funny. Like, I don't understand. They have a Jay Patterson 217 for 2 touchdowns, Mike. So they love their Jay Pattersons here in the MAC. But Rob, what are you looking forward to the most in this blackout matchup against Bowling Green? Let's see here. Since the second half of Kent, I mean, they've been horrible. Really. They played good in the 3rd quarter against Kent. They took the lead. They had the lead against Kent State, MAC East favorite, after a big win against Minnesota. And we were even starting to talk about it in our chat. Like, okay, like they're beating Kent. Like, they just beat Minnesota. Could they be the team there? And it didn't look like it. They went on to lose that game. And then from there, they have crumbled against Akron. They crumbled against EMU last week, a terrible home team. So what are you looking forward to the most tomorrow, Rob?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to hopefully see the same type of football from the Bulls that we've seen over the last, say, 6 quarters from the second half at Ohio and the whole game against Akron. We finally are seeing why Kyle Ventrese is capable to be a QB of this team when he's a game manager, when he has to have the ball in his hands more times than he can handle. That's when it goes like off the rail. And that's what we saw in the beginning of the season when they were trying to force him to do more stuff. And we're seeing the Kyle Ventrese that we've seen over the last few seasons, where he's a game manager. So as long as they keep being a game manager, and like you were saying, for that Bowling Green team, we were all fooled, and that's the worst thing with the MAC is that a MAC team can have a big win in non-conference, then you think, oh wait, this team's something we have to worry about, and then they fall back to their old selves. I mean, I really don't think there's gonna be competition tomorrow. Our defense is playing probably the best we've seen all season. right now, even with injuries, Riggins is out. I think there's another injury out there in the defense, but I mean, the three-headed running back, Mark's back tomorrow. Hopefully we still see McDuffie more than we see the other two because he's just been outstanding. But I really just don't think this one's a competition tomorrow.
Yeah, and actually what's gone kind of hand in hand is the down, kind of the down usage of Keon Williams, a guy that's only had 6 catches in the last 2 weeks over this, 2-game winning streak, only accumulating 44 yards in those 3 games, 46 yards, excuse me. So that could be something to monitor, that his usage might be directly correlated. And then you mentioned it, Kevin Marks, a guy running for 3.9 yards per carry. That's not good on an NFL level. It's certainly not good on a college level. It's basically 2 yards less than Dylan McDuffie's getting now at 106 carries, 603 yards, and 7 touchdowns. You do not go away from McDuffie. He's your number 1 running back both this year and beyond, having junior eligibility now. And we'll see if all these COVID years, I don't know how any of that stuff still works. But he's going to have at least another year of eligibility after this. He is your workhorse. You continue to ride him. He's been your best player offensively, at least in my opinion. He's the guy you got to run. The team's been better when he's carrying the load. I mean, just 2 yards might not sound like much, but if you really think about it, guys, over 100 carries, 2 yards it wins you football games, Mike. And that's kind of what you've seen in this winning streak. So we're going to bounce it to this Bowling Green team, Mike. What do you think about the game matchup with Dylan McDuffie? Getting the run game going against this Protrude Bowling Green defense since the Minnesota game.
I think it's set up to have a big day. Bowling Green's run defense is not good. They allow almost 200 yards on the ground per game. Their defense overall is actually all right. They're allowing about 28 points per game, but since the beginning of MAC play, that number has increased to 37. What I find really interesting is kind of in the early part of the year when they lost to midway part of the year, when they lost to Kent State and Western Michigan, we were talking about how concerned we were with this Bulls team because it didn't seem like their defense could get stops against better offenses, and their offense was struggling to run the ball. But I think what we have witnessed in the last 2 weeks is what I kind of been alluding to the whole season. The MAC East, outside of Kent State and possibly Miami, Ohio, is some of the worst football in the conference. You can't help but get better by playing some of these opponents. And the question is UB playing better the last 2 weeks, or is this just what you do against crappy teams like Ohio and Akron? And the one thing I would say UB is doing much differently, at least on the offensive side of the ball, is that they're finally starting to spread the ball out and utilize tight ends and some other receivers besides Keon Williams. I like Keon Williams. He's a great player. But when you have only 1 target in the passing game, which they had for the first 6 weeks of the season, your offense becomes very easy and predictable. Right now, I love what they're doing. Obviously, McDuffie is rough and tough to get down short of 4 yards. He gets his 5 yards almost every time. Ron Cook is adding a dynamic in the dump offs and the passing game. And what you're seeing now is the tight ends, guys like Trevor Borland, Tyler Stevens, Jake Molinek, all starting to get involved. And how about Gassett? Gassett lit up Akron last week. What a speed guy, utility guy. They tried to use him in moments earlier in the year, but he really took off last week. And I think now with the way that they were starting to get things gelling, it's just a way more dynamic offense overall. And they wanted to last week. UB could have scored 60. And Van Treese, yes, he is a game manager, but he also is showing that he is capable of stepping up at times when needed. He has made some solid throws, some good reads. And if they keep it up, this team is going to be right in it till the end of the season. They'll need some help from Kent State, hopefully a loss against Northern Illinois and a loss to Miami, Ohio, because I think the optimal scenario is that Kent loses at NIU, loses to Miami, UB continues to win, somehow takes care of NIU and Ball State in their games, and then you go into the final game of the season hoping that if you get a win, you have a chance to win the division. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but I think combination of UB starting to figure things out under Coach Mo because they've had some time, and their opponents just can't help but get in their own way. 11 sacks last week versus Akron. What a horrible offense by the Zips. you want to give UB credit for that, but you also can't completely not say Akron's just horrible when you allow
Yeah, it's a bad football team. One of the worst in the country. Now, you brought up a good point about Jamari Gassett. We'll start with his recruiting profile. He was recruited by Air Force. He was recruited by Boston College, Bethune Cookman, FIU, FAU, Illinois, Iowa State was after him. Kent State was after him, Toledo, UCF. So he had some really good interest. 3-star, recruit, 0.84 based on 24/7 and the 78th ranked receiver. So, he definitely has some talent, a 5'10 freshman, 171-pound speed guy. And so he's caught 167 yards for a touchdown in the season. 7 of those catches for 138 yards were last week and a touchdown. So really only in the last 2 weeks. Rob, have the UB Bulls developed a receiver too, finally, to say that, I know he's a freshman. I know he could probably only handle a certain amount of plays, especially when you put in Dom Johnson, certain run sets, etc. But, going forward, is Gassett, is he really going to be the number 2 receiver here in this Bulls offense, potentially the number 1 receiver as soon as a sophomore year when you lose a couple of guys?
Yeah, I'm really hoping. We've had, throughout the last few years, we've had those top receivers. I remember a few years ago we had Charlie Jones. He left after 1 year. And then, of course, last year we lost the likes of Trevor Wilson. I'm trying to think if we lost any other. So I'm really hoping these guys stay, because I know we have a few good 3-star wide receivers. I believe Cameron LeBourne is also a 3-star, maybe not a 3-star, but he's also up there high on this team that they really like him. So, if they can really develop these 2 guys into being a 1-2 receiver and have a QB that is a consistent QB and not really a game manager, I'm really liking our chances to have a more developed game by the end of this season and in the future.
Yeah, there's they have some work to do at the receiver position. We've talked about it on the show a lot. Like, we need, I don't know what the COVID. I think Keanu Williams is finally done. He's transferred. He's a senior. I don't know.
Yeah, he's considered a grad student.
Okay, yeah, I don't know where these COVID years come from. I don't know if he's playing on that. I don't know it's so confusing, like what they're allowed to count. And then you add in injuries and you add in this. We talked about Riggins before on this show, like all this stuff. But assuming he's done, assuming Dom Johnson's done, you're really looking at this stage he's pretty much the receiver that's got minutes. That's it. So we really need to see some development from him. And I don't think there's any problem with making him your receiver too going forward. There shouldn't be this rotation. He needs to play as many snaps as possible. Mike, do you kind of agree to that? Hey, you have a talented player. Absolutely. You need to feed him the ball and make him feel like, dude, you're number 1 receiver for 3 years. Don't go to Indiana.
Yeah. And I like what Rob just said too. There are some good young guys on this team, but freshmen, Leipold recruits, it'll take some time, but I think there is some reasons to be optimistic about what they have at wide receiver going into next year. You mentioned LeBourne. You got Ali Fisher, another 3-star guy. You add Gassett into the picture. That's 3 names right there that you're thinking, okay.
Also possibly Giovanni Ruiz back.
So I think this year, as I said in the previous podcast, I think Coach Mo went a little bit safe in going with the super seniors and the 4th-year guys that he thought he could trust with leadership roles. But I think as you're starting to see the season go on a little bit longer, you're starting to having some things change. You gotta fix things, and you gotta address some players. And you got the 4 games to really play youngsters before losing the red shirt. So let's see if that comes into play in some of these contests down the year, because I wouldn't have told you 3-4 weeks ago that I thought Gassett, I hope I'm saying his name right, Gassett, would be a huge player, but he might play a huge role down the stretch run of the season for this UB team.
I think it's Gassett, right? I'm not 100%.
I know I'm probably butchering it. I apologize.
Yeah, and Cameron LeBourne, we've mentioned a couple times, hasn't really gotten going a ton yet. We've seen a little bit in Ohio against Ohio. 5'9", 162 freshman from Norfolk, Virginia, had, looks from Virginia Tech. He had looks from Florida State, East Carolina, ECU. So he was looked at pretty heavily. Obviously I would have thought probably one of those could have came to fruition, but really only Virginia Tech I gave him an offer. So he still has a talented Power 5 style player, a guy 3-star. He is a 3-star.
That's a guy that has an ACC offer. And then like I mentioned earlier, Ali Fisher, he had an offer from Kentucky and check his recruiting page. Like there's a ton of big name schools that went after him. I'll pull that up here for a second. Hopefully that'll pull up for me. But like there is guys that have a lot of talent. And so just looking at his recruiting profile right now for Fisher, some of the schools that offered him, I mentioned Kentucky, also Liberty, which has been flirting with the top 25 in recent
The entire
years.
MAC.
You got Army, Ball State, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, and he was also looked at by Iowa and Michigan State. No offers, but like there's guys, and I think sometimes when you're struggling offense like UB was early in the season, and you're not passing the game, you want to see these guys instantly get in there. But for whatever reason, Coach Mo has been patient with them, and I think given time, as long as they stay with the program, you never know with the transfer portal now. There's some bodies that could probably make an impact down in the future.
Yeah, I was waiting to see something from the Housey brothers. Committed to UB, like, basically in the fall of last year. Haven't really seen anything about them.
Maybe redshirting.
Yeah, they must be. I mean, but they came in like Housey came in as an athlete ahead of all the aforementioned names, as an 85, as a 3-star, bordering like a high 3-star. So
football is different than basketball, though. Basketball, like I think you see a 3-star come to the MAC or a 4-star come to the
high
MAC,
3, yeah.
And you think they're going to make an instant impact. Football is kind of weird. You could be a totally unknown dude that a coach knew he had a steal in, who could come in right away and be an impact player in the MAC as a freshman. And then you could be a 3-star and maybe you're only slightly better than the other wideouts that you recruited. It's very tough sometimes when it comes to MAC and recruiting and knowing who really is going to be an impact player right away or who's going to be a developmental player.
Yeah, and I mean, Housey to me is like he played both. I mean, he's a corner, so like the team struggled at cornerback. I would have liked to see him play as the highest ranked recruit in a while for UB. So that's a bummer. It says he got in against Western Michigan. I don't know if that's true or not.
I do want to do one shout out. Sean Dolak, West Seneca East guy in the Buffalo area, had a sack and a half last week among the 11 sacks that UB had. That's a guy that played quarterback, was a walk-on UB, recently earned a scholarship, took West Seneca East deep in the playoffs his senior year. It's great to see a guy like that who really worked his ass off to get to where he was, starting to make contributions at the college level. So before you go any further, just wanted to give Sean Dolak a shout out. I called one of his playoff games when he was a senior in high school. So
did you?
Yeah,
okay.
Hey, I always have these random nuggets, just like how I told you Brian Stratton beat Point Park, one of UB's opponents last year, and I was the announcer for the Brian Stratton Buffalo Bobcats versus Point Park.
Of course, they're Bobcats.
Of course, something really.
The Bobcats won. That was a good Bobcats victory for you.
Okay, whatever you say, Mike. I mean, kind of to really cap off recruiting here, like there are some good names there. Some of them have played really well. The Housey brothers are the biggest mysteries to me. I thought we would have seen them. DeMarco Cuffey, another highly ranked cornerback, as well, coming out of the IMG Academy, like a basketball school, isn't it? The IMG Academy.
That's just an all-out.
It's an all-out D1 high school.
Check out the tuition for people that go there.
Yeah. Cuffey's seen some minutes against Wagner, but I'd like to see him a little bit. So there are some talented players in the pipeline. These guys that come in with pretty decent recruiting profiles are probably eager to get in here soon. So we'll see them hopefully next season. But there are some names to look forward to in the UB land, kind of gone through the majority of them. But I think a lot of people were getting kind of hyped for the 2022 recruiting class to add into this. You've got some, they keep rising in the ranks, mid-tier MAC recruiting ranks, which is good compared to the last ranked live hold recruiting system. I think sometimes you get a little bit caught up in the fact that like you got Jarrett Patterson, a true freshman who came out and played really good. You'd like to see a guy like the Housey brothers participate, especially, in a team where I thought they could have utilized them a little bit earlier on the season, especially at the positions, linebacker, cornerback. Would have thought cornerback could have got on the field Cuffey could have got on the field. But, there's a couple of really, big name, players to watch out for next year. Just briefly, Websley at ETN, from Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, safety that's going to come in. Jackson Aparitas from Tilton, New Hampshire, another high-ranked running back. Very interesting. Check out his career. He's a guy that, is going to be a workhorse at some point in his career to kind of maybe take away from Marks coming up soon. And then Makai Lynn, their highest ranked player. Guess what position he plays, guys? What position does Makai Lynn?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So we know Makai Lynn could potentially be the quarterback of the UB Bulls.
You see those offers?
Casey Case.
Cincinnati, Indiana?
I think Makai Lynn's getting the job. I don't think he commits here without being told, unless something happens, it's your job.
So.
I've been hearing from practice that Casey Case has been looking good.
Hey, he might be looking good, but Makai Lynn, that was a Coach Mo, one of his first commits, right? Rob, you got to look at this profile. He's
what's his name?
Makai Lynn. He's a 66th ranked quarterback in the class of 2022. He has offers from Cincinnati, Indiana, Toledo, Ball State, Miami. So the top MAC teams are looking at him. He's legit. But the Indiana and Cincinnati offer, come on, man.
Yeah, that's going to be tough to bring him in. And then, you look at it and you're like, well, 66 ranked quarterback, but hey, that's
dual threat. I like that.
Yeah, it's something I think that they're looking for out of this offense. If you ask the limitations even of Kyle Van Treese, it's probably the fact that he can't run the offense the way they'd like it to run. Personally, that's what I think. And I think you get that out of Makai Lynn. But Casey Case, I'm not counting anybody out. It could be a good battle. It could be a good battle between those.
Think about it like this: you got Casey Case, who I believe was a 3-star to 247. You have Brian Plummer, who is going to be a sophomore next year, 3-star according to 247, and Makai Lynn, 3-star quarterback according to 247. You will have 3-star quarterbacks on your roster. You think about it, how many 3-star quarterbacks has UB had in their entire history? And now they're going to have 3 on the same roster at the same time. This is where the competition gets rolled.
And then you have Myers still floating around, right? Yeah, I don't know what eligibility level he is.
Maybe
he's the runner.
Maybe you give Myers the job for his senior year, and then you tell one of the guys it's going to be an open competition after Myers leaves, and we'll see what happens. Maybe Casey has a chance, but
he's the third string right now.
I don't see Makai Lynn. Here's my prediction. I don't see him showing up without legitimate shot at it. I don't see him showing up to UV without a legitimate shot at it.
When you got those offers that we just mentioned, Indiana and Cincinnati, those are next level offers. You're talking about the number 2 ranked team in the country right now. And Indiana started the year as a top 25 team before he would have committed. So a lot of the other quarterbacks, they were 3-stars, but they were looking at other MAC teams or FCS programs. There's a different level when the top MAC teams are offering you in addition to.
And then he thinks he's going to come and sit behind, no offense, guys, Matt Myers. It's not like Tyree Jackson or something that had some really big established. I don't know. To me, it's Matt Myers. I'd like to. The reason they haven't gone to Matt Myers is because he's Matt Myers. The reason there were very many times this season, I don't care what you say, Coach Mo, any of the coaching staff members would have gone to the second quarterback. But everyone's asking me, are we sure that Matt Myers is better? No, I'm not. I'll be straight up. I'm not sure that he's better than Kyle Van Treese. I'll be honest. But I just thought there was a time that you needed to at least try. But he's looking at this. Makai Lynn's coming in I'm stepping into a situation where all I have to do is compete against Casey Case and Trevor Bazinski. And
he's gone. Bazinski's like the 5th string.
Yeah, Bazinski's got to be transferring. There's no way he can stick around. I know he was Ty B's guy.
He was Tyree's guy, and I fell for
it. I don't think he's got a shot. Yeah, I think he probably doesn't even have a shot for the Rock. They'll probably tell him, hey, man, you should probably go, maybe FCS or low-end FBS. But, there are some good names to look forward to, but we're looking forward a little bit too far right now. We do have Kyle Van Treese under center. We do have a matchup against Bowling Green tomorrow in a game that they really need to continue this momentum because, guys, it doesn't get any easier with 3 tough 50-50 games, according to the BPI ESPN statistical model. There are 3 straight 50-50 games coming up against at Miami, Ohio, Ball State, and NIU. So 50-50 games, you need to get it done against Bowling Green. I think we are all in agreement there. But the season really begins over the next 3 weeks. They don't have room for error, Mike. You got to take care of Bowling Green. I hate to say it, you got to take care of all three of them. Is that how you kind of in that camp? 7-5 is a good year. If they lose one of them, that would exceed my expectations. I have them going 1-2 down, 2-2 if you include Bowling Green. I have them going 2-2 down the stretch. Mike, what are you thinking? Give us a little bit of a 4-week picture.
4-week picture. They need to go. They need to win at all three.
Well, to win the MAC East.
For my prediction to be accurate, I don't think that's going to happen. I think 2-1 would be a very good finish to the season. I think that would get them a bowl game. With how many teams go bowling now, I think 7-5.
7-5, they would go.
I think 7-5 would be looked at as a successful season after all the turnover in the offseason. And honestly, Bowling Green has to be a win. This is a team, like I said, that lost to Akron, and we just saw how bad Akron was close up last week. Miami, Ohio, that's going to be such a fun game because it could go really either way. And if you beat Miami, Ohio, you go into the final 2 weeks thinking we got a shot here. Obviously, there's some work left out of their control, but I think if they can beat Bowling Green and beat Miami, Ohio, anything's possible those last two games. You look at NIU on paper, you look at Ball State on paper, you'd probably say they're better than UB. But if you get to 6-4, who knows if they're better? At that point, you're hot. You're riding a 5-game winning streak or a 4-game winning streak, whatever it is. At that point, anything is possible. So I think 7-5 most likely. 6-6 also a possibility. But who knows? Just get the win and see how far it takes you.
I think we're going to have a good conversation next week when it starts to get sticky. We can't just all the whole crew pick UB 3 straight weeks. Like, it's going to get tricky next week starting at Miami, Ohio. That is not a gimme game. That's a 50-50 game. So we'll see how we're feeling after this week, see if they can get the offense rolling, see what they can do. This isn't basketball either where the whole division is the same. I don't know. Does MAC East record take precedent? I still don't. Is that
there's no debate in basketball or football?
No. In football. I'm saying it's not basketball.
Football. I don't know how the tiebreaker. I think it goes
head to head. Then if it's a 3-way, it's 3-way. I believe is just obviously common who the people in the tiebreaker, and then I think it would go MAC East record.
Is MAC East? It's weird because is MAC East first though? Like you have to have the same MAC East record.
I remember last year we had this discussion because we all thought that UB had clinched it, but technically there was a scenario where Ohio could. It was all stupid stuff, but
that's right. That's where I learned this because of last year. MAC East record is the number 1 record, so it doesn't matter if you go 3-0 against MAC West opponents. If you go 4-1 in the MAC East and say a team goes 5-0 but 1-2 in the West or something, like Kent could actually do. Kent could do that. They could go 5-0 in the East and then 1-2.
Well, you know what I've learned about this Kent team? They are not that good. Like, they obliterated UB.
That offense, though.
They obliterated UB on offense. But, let's talk about the teams that Kent has barely beaten. They struggled to put away Bowling Green. They struggled to put away Ohio. They have – obviously, their non-conference schedule was crazy. They got destroyed by Western Michigan. Who's to say that Kent can't lose to NIU – lose to
I think they can.
Central. They play Central, right? Coming up, and then, I mean, honestly, Miami, Ohio, Kent. This Kent State team has 5-3.
What I'm trying to say, Mike, it might not matter if they beat Miami.
Yeah,
it might not matter though. If they beat Miami the last week of the year, they're 5-0 in the they're 5-0 in the East. Doesn't matter if they lose 3. That's what I'm trying to say. Is if you're 5, a team could be 6-2. This is where the Ohio thing came in last year. If you're 5-0 in the East, I think you go.
We'll figure it all out. Honestly, at this point, however it falls, UB is lucky.
I think they have to lose. Doesn't matter. I think they have to lose to Miami at the end.
Kent State's just going to lose out. Don't worry about it.
Okay, or that. But they have to lose to Miami, Ohio. That's what it was.
Unless they lose 2 games. Unless they go 5-3 in that play, and UB
doesn't matter.
If
they go 5-0 in that
goes the rest of the way.
No. I think you're wrong on that point.
No,
if UB goes 6-2 and Miami goes 5-3, then
we got into this last year. This is where we got into it because
6-2 is better than 5-3, Kev.
We got.
They're 5-0 in the MAC East though.
But that's not how it works. It goes by record first.
Kev, we got to relook into this. We should look into this before we talk more about it, and then get back to this next show.
We got into this last year. You should at least remember that.
I remember that.
Had
Yes,
something to do with.
but I think it was because we didn't play the same amount of games.
Yes, that was the reason. There was some weird thing with winning percentage and.
Check out what Mac East though. We're gonna look this up. We're gonna see it matters somewhere. If it matters.
6-2 gets the division over 5-3, but going 5-0 and Mac East.
I'm telling you, it's goofy.
Let's not argue this now. You got all of your predictions right so far this year. I don't want you to ruin all the goodwill that you've built.
I'm not gonna bet anything on the match. We've watched bad beats on ESPN. I'm not gonna bet anything.
No, I don't want you to. I just don't want the goodwill of everything that you've built to fall apart.
It's just something to monitor. I'm telling you, it's weird. I've gotten into this before, and I was weird on the other side of the coin, and it's weird. So we gotta look that up. I was very confused at one point, but Mac East's record is really important. Like if it might even be before head to head. I know that for sure. For sure, it's a head to head. You can't go head to head if you have a lot worse Mac East record.
We'll look into this. We will figure it out.
We'll look into that. Mike, anything on basketball? I know you want to talk about that, or did you want to hold that for next week?
Let's hold off on basketball next week. I do want to bring up the one thing I talked to you earlier about the expansion. I will say one quick thing on basketball. Kevin may have been hitting it. This is such a make or break year. We were just looking at the roster today, and there's so much talent on this team. But after this year, it's all sophomores and freshmen. It's scary. So only thing I'll say about basketball, they better make it work this year because it's going to be a young team after that. But the one thing I did want to bring up before we make our predictions, report by Pete Thamel earlier this evening that the Mid-American Conference is looking into potential expansion with Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee State. There was speculation from myself and a lot of people that follow the MAC that this could be a possibility with Conference USA on life support after they rated the AAC. I mean, rating Conference USA, and then the Sun Belt taking all of their leftovers. Honestly, I think it would be a great addition for the MAC. Western Kentucky has one of the best basketball histories of any non-power conference team in the country. They have something like 19 tournament wins. They've been to a Final Four. They've been to, I think, 2 or 3 Elite Eights. Decent basketball facilities. Great head coach in Rick Stansbury, who has brought in 2 5-star recruits to their program in the last 5 years. Mitchell Robinson, I think Charles Bassey. They play at an elite level. They get to the NIT. They win games. Middle Tennessee, I believe, is close to the Nashville market. Not really a ton of success, football or basketball, but they did have a good decade with Kermit Davis, who eventually now is the head coach at Ole Miss. Football, they offer some promise, some southward expansion. And you know what? That would be just the boost that some of these schools like UB and Western Michigan could use. Start recruiting in Tennessee. Start recruiting in Kentucky. Those are hotbeds for a lot of under-the-radar talent, and I think it'd be a great move for the MAC. And I know some fans don't get it, but I think in this current stage of college sports, you have to look to grow and stay alive. And if you're not looking to add, you're going to eventually get poached, even though obviously the MAC doesn't really have many.
But those two teams are complaining that they think their basketball programs are above the MAC, even though football.
I would argue that Western Kentucky.
I've already seen that in my feed.
I would argue that Western Kentucky basketball is above the MAC, but they don't have much of a choice.
When we play them this year, we'll just beat them and we'll show them that they're not above the MAC.
Okay, Rob, the one
easy money.
Rob, when I'm talking program,
I know you're saying. Yeah, I know.
So I just want to get you these numbers. Western Kentucky went to the 1971 Final Four. They went to 2 Elite Eights. They've gone to 8 Sweet 16s. They've been to the NCAA tournament. Something like their tournament record is 19-24, and then the NIT record is 13-16. So that means they have 32 postseason wins in their history. Tell me another MAC team that has more than 10 combined between those two.
The MAC conference probably has.
There's only been like one team that's gone far, right?
The only two MAC
the Kent State team
and
the Ohio team.
There's only 2 MAC teams that have NCAA tournament success as far as like near double-digit wins. I believe it's Miami, Ohio. Miami, Ohio has gone to the tournament a ton of times back in the day. And then Ohio University because they have 7 tournament wins. Kent State has like 3. Akron.
Well, they had that one run, right, with Antonio Gates.
The one run, Elite 8, and that's about
Yeah.
it. Western Kentucky, honestly, has. I bet you could add up the NCAA tournament.
That's what I was saying. You could add up the MAC wins, and they probably could still be lower.
Yeah. So they are above the league in basketball. Football-wise, they're not. But in Middle Tennessee State, are we forgetting that they won games in the NCAA tournament within the last decade? They beat Michigan State, and they had another tournament win.
They're always one of those sneaky 12 seeds. Always.
Yeah, they haven't been
always.
good.
But they'd be a great addition. Like you're not looking to add looking to add garbage though.
Yeah, like this would be fun. And think about it, you could realign the divisions. Honestly, that'd
Of
be
course,
the
why would the MAC expand to a worst of like they would want teams that were at least par with the UB Ohio's.
Well, what you would have to do, you'd have to do a 7-7 alignment. So what I think you would end up doing is you'd go north-south. So I think UB would then.
Well, you'd have to put those 2 teams together. Well, they don't do that in basketball, Mike. It's one division.
Well,
So
I'm talking about the football.
Yeah.
For football, I think you need a north-south because you would have Miami, Ohio, Ohio University, Middle Tennessee State, Western Kentucky, Ball State, and maybe Bowling Green or something like that. And then you'd have Akron, Kent, UB, the Western, the Michigan schools, and then Toledo.
It would happen in volleyball also. Volleyball has to be in the MAC to be in football and basketball.
I think this is something that will get done, but not because the MAC is being aggressive in it. I think it's because Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee State realize it is
the MAC's going to get free money out of it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like, they're going to get freaking free money. Like then they're not doing anything.
And this ain't UMass. This ain't Temple.
What do they need to do? Literally the free money they're going to get. They literally need some admin to realign the conference. That's it.
Yeah,
that's literally all they need to do.
This would be. And people act like the MAC has never had additions and subtractions. People
Marshall,
forget, like Marshall, Central Florida played in the MAC.
Yeah, I remember
that. You have Temple, you had UMass, and honestly, not a lot of people know this. I'm pretty sure Cincinnati played in the MAC back in the original days of the MAC. So like this,
I'm all for adding. Like I'm sick of being like the only New York. Like I'm all for adding good teams. Like I like them over having to play freaking Eastern Michigan alone every year. Like I don't know. These teams are better than that.
There's no defense.
If they do the North-South division, then I don't need to worry about Ohio playing UB every year, and then we can just settle for playing the MAC championship.
Well, they would play at least once.
Well, not if they do a North-South.
Every other year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd play every other year. That's how it is now, right? Because you play 3 1 year, then you play every other year right now.
But just think about it, like Rick Stansbury in the MAC, like he would instantly be. I told you this earlier, Kev, the second best coach in the MAC of the past decade. The only coach better would be Nate Oates. Rick Stansbury instantly second best coach in the MAC of the past decade if Western Kentucky joins the conference. Dude was the head coach at Mississippi State for something like, I think, 15 years or something like that. So the guy, I don't think Western Kentucky would be excited to be in our conference.
No.
But at this point,
it's a lot of travel for them.
Yeah.
Big travel for both of those schools, wouldn't it be? Compared to like.
But small travel compared to the alternatives, Rob.
Well, actually, Conference USA, they were in Conference USA.
Yeah, they were playing Utah.
Yeah, that's huge.
Louisiana
that's
Tech.
a huge.
Rob, these are the remaining teams in Conference USA as we speak.
Yeah, there's no one. I know that.
Florida International, it's UTEP, Louisiana Tech, then you got Western Kentucky, and you got Middle Tennessee State.
They don't have a choice.
They're trying.
They have to leave.
You need 6 teams to stay as a D1 conference. They're trying to invite Liberty. Liberty was interested originally if they were going to get Marshall to stay and they were going to get James Madison. Well, you know what? James Madison and Marshall are most like
make a true South and get all of them. Let's go
Madison going to the Sun Belt.
Make it like a 20-team conference.
Let's go full MAC. Let's be like one of the best.
You want to know the most ironic part about this is that Western Kentucky was a Sun Belt team back in the day, but didn't have the FBS football. They get football. They go into the Sun Belt. They join Conference USA to upgrade their athletics. But because they left the Sun Belt to go to Conference USA, they ruffled feathers in the Sun Belt. So now that the Sun Belt is in the position of power because the AAC rated the Conference USA. Sun Belt doesn't want Western Kentucky back because they are not happy that Western Kentucky left the Sun Belt in the first place. Think about it. Like,
there's some conference drama brought to you by Mike Bunt. Conference drama by Mike Bunt. Lots to look out for, guys.
I'm sorry, guys. This is a UB podcast, but
we're gonna put that in. We're not a MAC podcast, Mike. When we're a MAC podcast, we can break down the conference. When they pay us, someone pays us. Locked On MAC. Come on, Locked On. Hit us up.
Hey, Commissioner Steinbrecher.
I've seen Locked On Big Ten.
Call us.
I've seen Locked On
paying us right now. Like, we should be in a Hustle Belt affiliated podcast getting money from them. I don't know if they pay, but
Locked On has each conference edition for the BCS. Let's go. Add us in. Locked On MAC right here. But anyways, guys, like, UB's got a lot to look forward to in the basketball sector. We're going to get into some of that. Some awesome coverage. We're going to have to break into that next week, Mike. We're going to have to start going.
We'll settle with that. Yeah.
UB basketball content. We got all that stuff on the ground. We'll be at practice. We'll have all this stuff coming at you. What we think. Still think, and no preseason polls yet, but we still think UB will be toward the top of most of them. Probably number one. It's tough to say with these stupid things, but I would probably put them number one. Ohio's probably there. I'm not even sure, like, really what's going on. Like, Kent and Akron have so much turnover every year, and the West is just like one random team's good every year. And it's usually Toledo.
They had that blue ribbon, whatever it is, preseason poll, and I think it was like Akron at like 3 or something like that.
Akron's, they still think they're the third best even without LCJ.
Which I don't know how, because LCJ was most of their team.
It's their whole team. It's their whole team.
On Akron. I mean,
I guess they just pull another LCJ, right? That's what they always have done forever. I mean, they've always done it.
Every year you could do Ohio, UB, Akron, Kent in any order 1 through 5 with some random MAC West team at like 4 or 5.
Toledo, that they'll show every year. Every year.
And then
Toledo's
like,
up
once in a while you can
Bowling
throw
Green.
in Bowling Green. Like once in a while, like once every like 4 years, they have like a.
How about Bowling Green still not being able to get it done, guys? They had such a strong team,
and they're done now without Justin Turner. Like,
dude, Toledo and Bowling Green basketball have some of the longest MAC basketball tournament droughts as far as.
And they both had they were like 2 and 3 for a majority.
We beat both of them in the championship.
I mean, they had 2 and 3. Like, they were saying, like, their fans were basically like, "You're already in it. Like, let us win." It'd be good for the conference. You're only going to drop like 1 seeding point. The funny part is they probably lose that. They probably get in a better side of the bracket than they were in.
Definitely.
With the matchups they had, so unlucky against a young Kentucky team, and then like the runner up, in the ranked Oats here. So yeah, like the Mbala on the bench team. So. There's a lot to look forward to in basketball, and we'll have plenty to talk about. As even that's easier to follow recruiting. That's easier to follow some of that stuff. So we'll bring you out some basketball content very shortly as the Damon game approaches, and we get some. If we can get some word on lineups and stuff, we'll bring you some stuff in that category. But football's tomorrow. They need to get it done. We're going to have probably a more in-depth matchup against Miami because at that stage, Miami's a better team. There's going to be a lot more to talk about, and then we're going to have some real hypotheticals on, probably regardless of whatever the tiebreakers are, they need to win. They at least need to win. I think they need to win out. I'm going to be honest, to get into these scenarios where we're talking about what's more important. So, and you got to get some help. So it starts tomorrow, guys. Watch that primetime game. I think it's on ESPN, ESPN2.
CBS Sports.
No, not UB. Sorry, not UB.
Oh.
The NIU versus Kent, which is technically our championship game. Technically, as of right now, it's our championship game. I think it's on Prime. It's on something Prime, and I'm going to probably check that out because it's pretty important for our conference. So anyone out there that does check this out pregame, check out ESPN2, 7 o'clock, Kent and Northern. Pretty big game, ESPN2 in primetime. So for them to be the second game pretty much of the night for all of ESPN, check that one out. We're all going to be watching. We're all going to be rooting for NIU, right? That if NIU wins that, they clinch the champ. They basically clinch.
They'd be what, 5-0?
5-0.
Western's what?
Games. They beat Western, didn't they? 2-2 right now.
There's still an outside possibility that every team in the MAC West could tie for
Northern
first in the division.
I guess, yeah.
It's never going to happen.
Even if they beat Kent, yeah, I guess it's not. They just need to win.
You could argue the worst team in the MAC West would be the top team in the MAC East.
Well, look at Western. They took care of UB and Kent. So
yeah.
and they're technically third in the conference in the West. So it's probably
Look
true.
what Eastern just did to Bowling Green. I mean, Eastern, we're not even talking about them, and I think that Eastern Michigan's like 5-2 or something like that. So
yeah. So actually, Western plays NAU at the end of the year. If NAU loses out, that game could matter. It could be fun. But right now, check out ESPN2. It's pivotal for the MAC conference in general, pivotal for UB. We really need NAU to take care of business, to give us a tied slate and give us something to look out for, because we need, regardless, we're probably going to need Kent to lose twice, not just once. We're going to need him to lose twice. I don't know. Once again, we don't want to get into the tiebreaker discussion again. I don't know what happens if they're tied. It's really weird, though. So we'll check that out offline. Guys, Hartman's Distilling. Get out there. Check it out. Any other thing you're watching for? Oh, look at right there. Hartman's Distilling.
Oh, you got another bottle right there.
You did.
Or is that empty?
I get the bottle. Or empty? I run this ship, Rob.
Where's the bottles? God, that is not fair. We didn't do predictions.
I get the bottles.
Predictions, are we sticking with? Obviously, everyone's sticking with their prediction we released earlier, right?
Let's make them on here, though.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
38-24, domination. I can never predict UB to win by 20-plus points, but I have them covering. It's a 13.5-point spread right now. I have UB winning by 14. Would not be surprised if they win this by 20-plus. This is a team that Bowling Green lost to Akron, and we all saw what Akron was last week. You don't like to do this team beats this team, so you're going to beat them thing. But I think in this case, we've seen enough of Bowling Green to know that you really should whoop them. If you are any good, take care of business, and I think UB's on a roll, and I think they'll do exactly that.
Rob, 41-20.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with mine. Bunt said that he can never predict the team to win by 20-plus, but I'm going for it. I mean, we just saw what Akron we just did to Akron. Bunt said it. Akron beat Bowling Green. Bowling Green, who knows what they're doing right now? I'm going with
41 points too. You got the over. Mike, you got the over. Just barely. Is it 58? What's the over tomorrow? I think it's
1.5 or something.
I said it at the beginning of the show. Okay, so 51.5. So you both have over. I have it at 31-17. I don't see Bowling Green scoring a lot, and that's me giving props to the UB defense. 48 points. I got just the under, and I'm not feeling great about them even getting to that 17-point mark, guys. Like, I'm really not. Even look at what Akron is. 17 is probably comfortable. I'm seeing a similar type of game. I'm feeling 31-17 tomorrow. So I'm going to stick with a double-digit win for me. I don't predict a ton of UB double-digit victories. So, looking forward to that, just hitting the under. So we'll see if let's see if we get another bad beat under. We had a bad beat under last week that I got right. Do we get another under this week? That's going to be you need Bowling Green to score. You need them to score. Are they going to do it? I don't know. You need him to at least hit 20. Rob's got him at 20. Mike, you got him at 25.
It's been raining in Buffalo nonstop the last.
So you got him at 25. Rob's got him at 20. You think they're going to do that in the weather? I don't know, guys. So those are our predictions. We'll finish. Ty B has in 34-13, Maniac 27-17, Degenerate L. Sneaky Degenerate L sticking right in second place in the rankings too, 37-17. So Degenerate L's got just an under, but them with a pretty big win too. So we're going to be back at you with you next week. Right here Fridays. We're going to stick with Fridays. Basketball to talk about, recap of this game, a huge Miami game. There's going to be a lot in UB land here very shortly as we hit November. A fun month for UB sports. November is probably one of the best. Get out to Hartman's. That's going to wrap us up, hitting the 55-minute mark here on Bullet Points. Blew through it because Mike had to spend 15 minutes talking about the conference. So be back with you Friday night. Come talk some action. Come talk some UB. Come talk some basketball. Till next week, though, good night now.